Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I've been featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. Today, I'm up to song number 2858, which is True Colors by Cyndi Lauper. This was a number one hit of hers in 1986. She had just two number ones. Her other one was Time After Time, which came out in 1984. Um, I'll get back to this song later, but first I want to talk more about her history. Here's a picture of her early on, and as you can tell, she was pretty wild. Her whole persona, she had very wild hairdo. She changed, dyed her hair different colors at different times, and she wore these really extra, it was really kind of provocative outfits. I liked her. I mean, I remember when she became popular. I was at the University of Michigan at the time. I remember when her first album came out. It was called "She's So Unusual," and you can tell from the cover she doesn't she's flaunting her unusualness, I guess, on the street. And her first big hit, she had four top 10 hits on this album, which was the most top 10 hits to start out of any artist since Leslie Gore in over 20 years. Leslie Gore, her first top hits all went top 10 as well, but that was over 20 years earlier. That was back in 1963 and 1964. So pretty great accomplishment for Cyndi Lauper. And this was her first album. She's So Unusual. It had the hits "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," which went to number two. It had her first number one, Time After Time, which went to number one. It had She Bop, which went to number three, and All Through the Night, which went to number five. It also had Money Changes Everything, which wasn't as big a hit. That only went to number 27. But anyway, five top 40 hits, four top tens, and a number one on the first album. Pretty impressive. And then I guess her next big break came in the movie called The Goonies. I don't remember if she starred in that movie, but she sang the theme song called The Goonies Are Good Enough. And I don't know if you guys have seen this movie. It's kind of I don't know, kind of typical Spielberg mid 80s. It's fun. I mean, it's kind of a teenage, I don't know if you call it comedy or horror or maybe a little bit of both or adventure. It's an interesting movie. I kind of like it. I've seen it a few times. These teenagers go on this big search for this buried treasure underwater, and pretty far fetched story, but it's entertaining. And what else? So then her next big album, her second big, and she only really had two big albums, but her second big album came out in 1986. This was called True Colors, and it featured her hit True Colors, which I want to talk about. And I really like the song True Colors. I probably should have put it higher on my list. I think it was kind of an oversight that I didn't put it higher. But it's a very deep and meaningful song, I think. It's basically about being yourself, at least the way I interpret it. And I think she's kind of speaking for herself. I understand that she had a really rough childhood. I mean, I guess she was always really provocative. She always dressed out of the norm, and she always, I guess, acted out of the norm. And I think she got teased a lot as a kid because of that. And I can relate to that because I did too. And one thing I really like about Cyndi Lauper is that you can kind of tell from her music, she's not afraid to stand out. She's not afraid to be different, She's herself. I think she's herself in most of her songs. And I appreciate that about her. I also think she's very talented, or at least she was back in the 80s. I haven't heard any of recent music, but yeah, so True Colors. I didn't even mention her other hits. Maybe I should do that first. She actually had um, four hits on the album, True Colors. Her other ones were Change of Heart. That went to number three. What's Going On? She had a remake of What's Going On, which was originally a hit for Marvin Gaye in 1971. That one's coming up much later on my list, by the way. That's a rock classic. But she did a good job with it too. And she also had a Night to Remember. Yeah, I guess that was her last album, A Night to Remember. This featured the song A Night to Remember, and her only other Or no, if yeah, and the only other hit was "I Drove All Night," which also this came out in 1989, by the way. And so did "I Drove All Night." But now I'm gonna get back to. I think I pretty much said everything I have to say about True Colors. Anyway, I guess that concludes my my video for today. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you guys next time.